Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared.
Hello and welcome everyone to Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez and I am going to be your host today with our special guest, Tim Marsh. And this program is sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. And if somebody referred you, please get back with that person because they will be your main point of contact. And so we have Tim Marsh. Oh, I forgot. I forgot to do nothing. Okay, so Tim is a licensed massage therapist and a physical trainer, and he has a magnificent healing practice, and he has helped a lot of people. He is a structural integrationist. Thank you, integrationist, body worker, personal trainer, clinical exercise specialist, movement specialist, and has helped countless individuals overcome major injuries in order that they may lead healthy lives again. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Tim on. He has a really great presentation, although I did not do the disclaimer. So this program is for educational purposes only and is not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any diseases. All righty, so let me bring Tim on. Hello, Tim. I'm looking forward to what we have to talk about. It's going to be great.
So what I wanted to do is, people have heard me talk about fascia, and what I wanted to do today is kind of clear up some misunderstandings about fascia and what it really is. And if your fascia is locked, your body isn't tight, it's miscommunicating with itself. And that's where people don't really get what fascia is. They think it's something that can be dug out. They think it's something that can be rubbed out or, kind of using a trigger gun or whatever else. But what we have to understand is the fascia is the body's second nervous system. It's not about movement. It's about messaging between the systems. And what I'm going to try to do today is take a very complicated topic that took me 27 years to master and try to give people just a little bit peek under the hood of what fascia really is. So when we start talking about what fascia really is, people know it's made of collagen and it's made of elastin and ground substance, which really is just a fancy way for saying if I say collagen, it's about structure and tensile strength. That's what that collagen helps with. And elastin, that's about flexibility and adaptability. But the big one is called ground substance. And that's the fluid medium where the nutrients, the waste, and the chemical messages travel. So when we start talking about ground substance, it isn't extra, it's the highway for communication between cells, organs, and systems. So when dehydrated or thickened or with an adhesion, that communication slows down. So, Ruth Ellen, can you pull up the first slide?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Get it to you in 1 second. And
That's it. Perfect. No, that's it.
okay, that's not the right one.
Yeah. Well, the first one was just the intro. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, what you're seeing, everybody, is you're seeing the fascia, the epidermis, the dermis, the superficial fascia. Then you got the deep fascia, and then you've got the muscle. Now, what people have to understand is if we came from one cell and that cell split into two cells, where that cell touches is called fascia. And if those two cells grow into a circle, that becomes our mouth and that becomes our anus. And what happens is we grow within inside that. So what people are now starting to understand is fascia is not on the outside, it's embedded inside of us. It's embedded inside every cell, every nerve, every stomach lining. Everything is connected and interwoven into a web. So when we start talking about, when we get dehydrated and things get thickened or we have an adhesion from an accident that we had when we were 17 and we weren't sure about it, that all plays into it. And our fascia is our memory. It's the brain's superhighway to figure out where it is. So if we start talking about fascia and digestion, Ruth Ellen, can you pull up slide 3?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. So when I said everything's interconnected, you can see these lines and you can see these segments. Well, that's the fascial lines. That's the septums. That's the areas that separate the different muscles and they slide. So if we look at that cross section, you start to see that is us and we're interwoven with those different sections. So when we start talking about topics like brain fog, we start talking about fascia and digestion. What we're really talking about is how the fascia interacts with the rest of the body and how the body interacts with the fascia. All right, Ruth Ellen, can you pull up the first one with the stomach?
The first one with the stomach. Okay.
Yeah, it's got the one image and it's got that. That's it. Okay. So we can see with this image, the colon especially, it has the parietal fascia, right? And that lines the internal lining of our stomach. So when we start talking about fascia and digestion, we're talking about the fascial lines that wrap around the gut. Okay, Ruth Ellen, can you pull up number 5? One more. That's it. All right. Now, this is probably something not a lot of people have seen, but this was actually found out by Tom Myers. He's a great rolfer, Eric Dalton, and a whole bunch of other people that I've learned from. But what this is these are the 2 deep lines of the body of the fascia. So we have the front line, which starts all the way up in our neck and actually in the back of our head, down through our neck, through our stomach, down through the pubic bone, through the adductor, down through the lower leg, and into our foot. And then we have the spiral line, which starts at the back of our head at our occipital ridge, runs down, crosses over, attaches to the scapula, attaches to the rhomboid, goes through the serratus, down through the internal and external oblique, across to the other side of the opposite side hip. So you can see the deep front line and spiral line express how all body systems connect within this matrix. So when we look at the deep front line, we're talking from the jaw, the diaphragm, the psoas, the pelvic floor, down to the inner legs. So restrictions along this line compress digestive organs. So if I'm somebody who has irritable bowel, or I'm somebody that has, like I am, gluten intolerant, if I keep tripping off that switch, then what happens is my body's going to react to that. And that's going to clamp down. And then the cilia inside my stomach is not going to flow the way it's supposed to. So then it's going to start to get really slow. And when it gets slow or it starts to get blunted, then what happens is the food starts to drop. It doesn't stay hovered, it drops and it goes into these pockets. And that about diverticulitis, you know? So you start to see, I just want everybody to see how everything's interconnected. So when we slow down the peristalsis, we don't have absorption, we have bloating, various things like that. Now, the spiral line, that wraps around the torso, and tension here can twist the abdominal cavity, affecting organ motility. So Ruth Ellen, can you go back one slide? Perfect. Okay, so everybody can see, you look inside the stomach and you see all these little lines, that's fascia. So that anchors the intestines, that anchors the different organs and holds it in a certain place. So if I allow myself to get out of shape, which I've been in the past, you know, and I had a big gut or I had an accident, think about what happens to the anchoring or the sling of that stomach. What if it tips forward? Then the cilia can't move it the way it's supposed to. So then it gets sluggish in one area, and that area starts to stop and it starts to slow down and it starts to get irritated. And then we go ahead and we take substances like turmeric, and we take all these different things. And then people go, but it doesn't work. Well, maybe it's not the substance we need to focus in on. Maybe it's our internal ground substance, our fascial system that we want to start to take a look at. And that's what this whole presentation is about, is giving people another way to look at chronic issues that may have not been addressed. So now, Ruth Ellen, can you go back to that image, that multicolored image of all the, yeah, that's it, perfect. So if we start talking about brain fog, what we're really talking about is the fascia and the cranial membranes. So I've worked with people who've had trigeminal neuralgia. I've worked with people who've had different disorders of the brain and stuff like that. and even traumatic brain injuries. And when the people get injured in a car accident, or they're skateboarding and they break their neck and then they crash open their corpus callosum, and now they're labeled learning disabled, or they're labeled as a traumatic brain injury. Everybody wants to focus on the brain, but what about what the brain can feel? That's where cranial sacral therapy comes in, but even that's a light touch. But if I find a spot where their head hit that window, and that creates a scar tissue, and I'm able to unravel that scar tissue because everybody's focusing on the brain, and I'm able to help take that head and be able to right that ship, what is that going to do to that person? What if the people with concussions? I work with concussion protocol all the time, and I've had people come in with 6 concussions. They don't even know whether they're coming or going. I've had military vets come in, they have PTSD and concussion protocol, and we don't seem to be helping them because we're forgetting about the fascia's connection to that issue. And there's a lot of wounded vets out there. And if you're listening, I want you to understand something. If you tried all the protocols, if you tried all the rainbows and puppy dogs, and you tried all the meditation and all that stuff, why don't you get with a qualified deep tissue specialist and let them rock you and make you vulnerable so you can wake up? That's where it's about. And I'm passionate about this because I have a lot of vets, and they come in and they say, I wish my buddy could get help, but he lives in California. There's people like me in California. You just have to look. But more importantly, you have to be willing to go through the pain to get to the other side. And to go through the pain, you've got to go through the fascia. That's the watchdog. So as we're born with a pit bull sitting next to us. And that pit bull grows up with us. And any kind of trauma that hits our body, that pit bull locks in and says, you're not going to get this. What we have to do is give that pit bull a piece of meat or a bone and say, hey, you go over here while we tinker over here and start to help this fascia open up. So that's where you start getting into, the brain fog and the trauma and the concussions. You start getting into the skull base, the spinal dura, and down to the sacrum. And the restrictions are reduced cerebral spinal fluid flow and cranial tension. So you get sluggish, you get poor fluid exchange, slower neural firing, brain fog. So a lot of us are walking around because we look at these computers, we look at these screens, we look at the phones, and what's happening is when we pull away from that, we're still locked into that screen and the phone. And we're trying to do all these methods, but sometimes you got to get in there, you got to dig, and you've got to really want to pull your posture and your distortion out of that locked position, because life will lock you in. And what you have to do is you got to start figuring out how to unlock yourself. So one of the nice things is I teamed up with Longevity because I realized that when I started having a couple clients use their products, including myself, after I dug out the pathways, I started to do, I don't want to say an experiment. What I started to do is I wanted to see what it would work because it worked on me. So then I had some clients try their products, and I started to notice there's a difference. So it's interesting, the supplement industry, they have all these products, but, people say, oh, well, I've tried this and tried that and it didn't work. Well, what if it's not the product? What if it's the fascia telling the body, hey, I'm not happy here. And if I'm not happy, I'm not going to absorb it. I'm not going to utilize it. So when you start looking at the different lines, you start looking at the distortions. So you have the spiral line we talked about that can create torque on the cervical spine, reducing blood flow to the brain. Any questions before I move on to fascia and inflammation?
I don't, does anybody have
If
any?
not, I can rock it through it.
Okay, Marilyn has a question, and then
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question. So do you think that rolfing, is that something we should do like once a week then
Oh,
because often
Rolfing
we have
is,
this,
yeah, Rolfing is fantastic. It was created by Ida Rolf back in the late 70s. She was helping babies with autism, and she saw the fascial web. A Rolfer is a PhD level massage therapist. They're also known as structure integrationists, you know. So I'd recommend, before I would go to Hand and Stone and before I'd go to somebody like that for chronic issues, I'd recommend going to see a structural integration or Rolfer, because we are the sleuths. We're the fascial sleuths. We're the ones that look at the whole different 12 fascial lines of the body. And all hail Tom Myers, because he's the one that figured them out. These guys are brilliant, brilliant individual. But yeah, I would do that. Or, you know, do your research, start to understand, look at it
Is
as if you're
is
doing
your
cross.
treatment,
Good.
is your treatment the cost like if I went to a chiropractor? I mean, or is it more than that?
Well, see, that's the
I'm just
problem.
trying
See, we're
portability.
all, the chiropractor's covered by insurance,
Okay.
right? I'm not, and
Okay.
I should be. I mean, people like me and people at Hand and Stone, the people that are cranking away day after day there, they should be the front line. What should happen is the insurance company should give us the opportunity to set up the rest of the industry. And that's the sad part, because what they do is they go in and they go and go, oh,
'Cause I
okay, here's
definitely
this
need
issue.
you.
Yeah, but
I
but
definitely
see,
need you
but
from
if
years
you
of
need me,
clerical and
if you need
yes,
me, that means that there's a lot of people out there that need somebody like me.
absolutely.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create this platform. I wanted people to become educated. So if you find that one gem of that massage therapist that's Hand and Stone or wherever, and they've got you and stuff like that, then challenge them. Say, hey, you know what? We've done this for a while. I was watching this show. Do you think you might be interested in that? And if they're not, then you say, all right, I gave you a chance. I'm going someplace else. Do you see what I mean?
And you will do a virtual session?
I do virtual sessions to figure out what's going on with people. But during COVID, I never thought, if I tell them where to put the ball and I guide them into the ball or the foam roller, I somehow was able to find that spot. You know what I mean? So it's really not about the application. It's about why the application's being applied. You know what I mean? It's not about taking a trigger gun and going, wow, I just had a hard day of CrossFit. Yeah, I'm going to do my shoulder. And all of a sudden they're like, well, why is my shoulder not getting better? It's because you're going superficially. You got to go deep. You got to get the body to start going, hey, why am I holding up that shoulder? Oh, yeah, because when I do my clean and jerks and when I do my cleans, I'm using my trap too much. So then my body goes, oh, I know where I am. I'm just going to sneak this up just a tiny bit. And to the average person, that looks normal. But it's not, because it should be down here.
Right. And it isn't just one issue. It involves many issues. It's
It's
all
always, if it's a
it's
chronic issue,
complicated, yes.
right. If it's acute, it's probably one issue. If it's chronic, meaning chronos over time, you're talking 5, 6, 7 different layers.
Yes. That's what I've been experiencing. Different things gradually increasing.
That's right. And then one of them feeds into the other one. It feeds into the other one. And now you got 7 issues bearing down on your fascial system, your nervous system, your hormonal system, your adrenal system, but most importantly, your brain and its awareness.
Right. I've even noticed brain and connection to the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you start talking about people who have chronic migraines, right? I've had lots of people who've had chronic migraines. And what I do is I get back into that occipital groove and I literally strip it out. And where those two occipital nerves go up through this little tiny little area like this on one side and the other, they get crushed. And when they get crushed, that's going to affect the whole eye, the whole throat, the autoimmune disorder, all that stuff.
So are these two occipital nerves different than the 12 cranial nerves that Dr. Wallach talks about?
The 12 cranial nerves are inside,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
But if you start looking at it from a standpoint of, I've had clients that have had motility issues. That's where their throat muscles don't quite work as well, and they get food caught. But if you look at that cranial nerve, the hypoglossal, well, that's sitting down at the bottom edge of that. So if I have that forward head posture, what's going on with that nerve, right? What's going on with that nerve? It's getting crushed. And then we're going ahead and we're saying, oh yeah, take your head back, take your head back. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We're taking it back. What if we took it forward? What if we stripped it out, then took it forward and let that nerve go, ah, instead of, oh my God, this weight is just bearing down on me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to stretch it out, kind of like we were talking about a little bit earlier before the
Right.
show.
Right. But remember, you can't stretch an adhesion, you can't teach an adhesion, and you can't train an adhesion. You train the compensation.
Okay. Is that good?
Thank you. Thank you. I know it went
All
more.
right.
It's okay. All good. And Dave,
Okay,
I
so yep.
would like to know, what is fascia made of, or from, I should say. And I
Well,
can that spider webby slide if you want.
well, did he see me do the two cells?
I don't know. People come
Okay,
in.
well, I'll do it again. If you have a cell and that cell touches another cell, where they touch is fascia, right? And if that cell grows into a circle, that becomes our mouth and our anus, and we grow within that. So when you say, where is fascia? Fascia is in every part of our body, like a very complicated second nervous system.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So when you were talking earlier about the gut, and if somebody's
Mhm.
belly is forward and it causes trauma in the fascia area as well. And you mentioned gluten intolerance.
Mhm.
When people have a gluten intolerance, it damages the villi in the small intestines, so people can't absorb nutrients.
Right.
So you have a double whammy there because they're not absorbing the nutrients, which makes it harder for it to even get to the fascia or the brain or the heart or the joints. I mean, Gluco-Gel is amazing, and you love Gluco-Gel for some
Yeah. Yeah,
reasons.
we use it all the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just want
So are you asking how the fascia can help with that?
yeah, like, what do you like? How would that all
Okay.
work? Because
Well, I've had clients over the years, and one of them's probably watching right now, and they had blunt villi, right? It was really small. And what they had to do was go on a strict diet, and they had to stop irritating
Mhm.
that issue, right? So when I turned 50, 57 now, when I turned 50, I started to have problems and I had hives, and a couple times I went into anaphylactic shock and I couldn't figure out what it was. So then I started thinking, okay, let me follow my own advice.
Mhm.
So I went on a FODMAP and I started to take out stuff. And when I started to take out gluten and dairy, I started to feel better. So what I had to do is I had to make myself uncomfortable. I couldn't whine. I couldn't say, but I love bread, which I do. I love bread. But I love myself more. And I love my stomach lining even more because once you damage it, it is hard as hell to get it back to come back. You have to be dedicated.
Yeah.
And the problem is there's no qualifying test for gluten. I've had people who had tests and they went to all these different places and they're like, oh no, you're fine. Only to find out later when they're 60 years old, hey, guess what? We just found out that you have a gluten issue.
Right.
So maybe you had a small little microscopic gluten issue
Uh-huh.
that over the time turned into this big giant thing.
Right. Yeah, it takes 3 months for the villi in your small intestines to regrow, to heal, to be able to start absorbing. And there's a certain individual that you work with that I love dearly, who has
I
started
know what
eating
you're talking about.
all the time and
Oh
for
my God.
did not eat any, and his body was great.
Yep.
And now just mentioning it, oh my God. But it's really important, and people don't realize, 200 years ago, wheat was different, barley
Yes, it
was different,
was.
rye was different, all of the gluten containing things, it was all different. It was pure, not messed with, not made to be more of a crop yield or whatever, but it's
Yep.
just the same now as it was before.
Mhm.
It does interfere with absorption, is my point. And I'll let you get back to your
No,
topic.
no, that's fine. This is all about information. If
Yes.
this information helps somebody, let's rock and roll with it.
Yeah. So that may be a conversation you should have.
I think it's in one of the talks I sent to you that I'm going to do for the next 10 series. So,
I met with that individual.
oh yeah, nah, that's a tough nut to crack right there.
All right. It is. It is. All right. Do we have any other questions from? I haven't been able to check the different platforms because I'm got my slides up and everything. So we'll just move on. If somebody, oh, Rebecca's got a question. So please unmute yourself and come onto the screen. Gorgeous.
Hey, look who
Hello,
it is.
hello. It feels so different to be on the observation deck rather than, controlling it. But I am absolutely loving this. I am so thankful that I'm in driving distance to you, Tim, now. And I have a question. So we're talking about fascia.
Mhm.
Whenever you're looking at fascia, that includes like plantar fasciitis, has the word in there, but sciatica. Does that fall into the whole fascia as well?
Oh my God,
A
absolutely.
lot of
Because
people.
you have what's called thoracolumbar fascia. Okay. So when you look at somebody and you look and you see these big, thick Roman columns on either side of the spine, that's a problem. You know why? Because they use those muscles too much. And what happens is that pushes the spine forward. It crowds out the spine. So all those guys out there that are working out and doing deadlifts and women who are doing deadlifts and all that stuff, right? There's supposed to be a certain tonal quality. And I've had bodybuilders, world-class former bodybuilders on my table. And when I dig out that thoracolumbar fascia, they're sitting there kicking themselves in the ass going, why the hell did I make it so thick? So that's where functional flexibility comes in, and that's going to be the next talk. But what it means is if I'm always going north and south, Domine Gatto, Mr. Roboto kind of stuff, right? CrossFit, all that kind of stuff, right? High intensity training. What people have to understand is when we throw rotation into the body, it's like taking a wet rag and wringing it out. So then it dries out and it starts to get pliable. That's why Tai Chi, that's why yoga is beneficial because you're stretching all three planes of motion. And motion is lotion to the back and to the body. But more importantly, when you start building up that thoracolumbar fascia, right? And this is the sacrum. Eric Dalton taught me this, so shout out to him. Okay, he's a Rolfer, just like he studied with I Rolf. So what he always said is when somebody's laying on the table and their sacrum's kind of like this, well, if it goes like this, how does that affect the spinal nerves? Right? How does that affect those foramen, those little holes where all those nerves come out, like the horse's tail? It's called the caudal canal. And basically, what happens to those? What happens to the nerve that are attached to them? What about the fascia that pulls on the nerves?
They become restricted.
Exactly. And what if the body's trying to send a signal to say, hey, I'm not happy, but we're not listening to the signal? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what this whole talk is about. Is if I've gotten on the table and I'm doing hip lifts and I'm doing all this other stuff and I'm trying to do fire hydrants and whatever they call those other things, the different bird dogs and all that stuff. If they're not working, there's a reason why they're not working. And that's why I wish like hell the industry would recognize people like us and let us team up with the doctors. I've got PTs that team up and they love it because they're like, I didn't even understand what this fascia stuff was. I thought it was chicken skin. Oh, hell no. It's deeper.
And I think that deeper part is why for many who have gone to chiropractic and they say, oh, it doesn't help. Well, no, it's not going to help when that's not the problem.
That's right. And then the
It's
chiropractor comes in. I'm not knocking chiropractors. They're important. But
Neither
what
am
I'm
I.
saying, right. But what it is I'm saying is, what do they say the definition of insanity is?
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
Exactly. So we have to think outside the box. So when people come to me, they've already been through the 75%. So now they fall into the 25%. They said, well, you know what, Mary Lou, I've worked with you for a year. I just can't seem to help this. So you're going to be redirected. And I've tried everything. But the question is, have they really tried everything? Or have they tried everything in their toolbox, but they never wanted to take the time, like I did, to find a whole different toolbox? This is the missing toolbox.
So you take this and you marry it with nutrition.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of people out there that
Mhm.
need to do both
Of
and
course.
really feel what it feels like to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Awesome.
agree.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. I'm going to turn this back over to our host for the day.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you, Rebecca. Those were great questions and a great conversation. Somebody asked what kind of Gluco-Gel you prefer, but if I'm recalling it right, you've only used the 240 count capsules bottle, correct?
Right. Right.
All right. Well, so that is the answer to that question. AJ, you have a question?
No, just a comment. Ruth Ellen, they should contact you if they want that bulk opportunity on the Gluco-Gel.
Yes. Yes. There is a bulk opportunity for that bottle. So you should
Oh,
get
can I interrupt something about that real quick?
yes, please.
All right. One of my clients is a specialist in what do they call it? The life cycle of medicine in our body and supplements. And when people look at the Gluco-Gel, it says take 10 of them. Well, that's not for you guys to sell more. That's to make sure that that substance makes it through the gut-brain barrier, makes it through the internal furnace, which is our gut, and stays alive. Because if you just take 1 to 2 pills, that's not going to do anything because it's going to get gobbled up. So it's like the law of attrition. What happens is that first wave comes in, you hit it with another wave, you hit it with another wave, and before you know it, you're storming the beaches of Normandy.
Yes, very true. When I first found longevity and Dr. Wallach, I had a really bad injury and I had vertigo for like months, and I couldn't hold a chiropractic adjustment. And I took 15 to 20 a day.
Yeah.
Because it was so bad that my body needed those things to help process it and help it do what God intended for our bodies to do, which is repair themselves. Really makes a difference. Very much so. You are absolutely right. You do.
And that's a perfect segue for the last part of this talk. Do we still have time?
We do. Do you have a hard stop?
No, I don't.
Okay. So yes, we have AJ, go ahead. And then Marilyn has a question as well. AJ.
So how does the status of person's fascia, such as tension or stiffness, influence the function of their digestive organs or contribute to us feeling like we have brain fog?
Okay. You remember when I did a talk on the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and our fight or flight response?
Okay, I can remember that, but can I talk
No,
about
no, no.
that?
I'm not asking, but what it is that to answer your question. So when we're in a state of a sympathetic nervous system, that's our fight or flight. So if the fascia is being tugged and the nerves are being tugged and the nervous system's being tugged and the hormonal system's being tugged and our adrenal system's being tugged, right? How does that affect us? Well, let's just put it this way. If I'm somebody who grew up in a traumatized house, right? And I'm sitting there and it's Christmas time and it's time to go in with my mom and bake cookies. And all of a sudden my gut starts to feel really tight. And all of a sudden I start to relive all those moments where my mom or somebody told me I wasn't doing it right. And then what happens is I start to constrict. I start to get tight. And then what happens is they start to relive those emotions. That's how deep this goes. That's what I mean. So if you're, let's say, take a situation, if you're in an office and you go up and you say, okay, I have this report, and your boss goes, and he hates it or whatever, she hates it. Are you really going to step back in that office the same way ever again? Or are you going to be a little bit apprehensive? Right? Well, our fascia is attached to that thought you're just thinking about.
So the fascia is carrying the memory?
Yes, that's the key. That's why I'm going through all this trouble to make sure people understand. The brain is in a cave, in a dark cave. When it looks, it sees upside down. Then it has to write that image. That brain uses our fascia as a way to figure out where it is in space, time, and how to move. That's why there's so many proprioceptors in the joints. So if I'm an octopus and I go into a tank and I have 26 different king crabs, if I get bit by one of those crabs, I will never go in that space again. That's us. That's what we learn. And when we dig ourselves out, we're digging ourselves out from the past. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people on the table and I drop an elbow into them and they start to break. Because what I did is I hit the spot that they forgot.
Okay, on a simpler note, is this related to like butterflies in the stomach? Like if you have that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all part of why are you getting nervous? Why are you responding? Do you realize more people are afraid to stay in a room by themselves for 3 minutes alone? Imagine if they took away their phone, they sat in the darkness and they went, what am I? What am I? What am I really thinking? What's the ghost in the machine? And then the best part is I've teamed up with psychotherapists and I've worked with people while the psychotherapist talks to them. And one person in Boston, she had agoraphobia, very bad. When the two of us teamed up, imagine that. The mind and the body teaming up. That woman was able to walk out the front door of that therapist's office and go down the street and stop at a stop sign. And when she got there, she dropped to her knees and she cried. That's what happens when both sides start to work together.
I believe that. Yeah, it is. I'm a perfect example of that. All right, so Marilyn's had her hand up. So Marilyn, you have a quick question?
Yes. What's the difference between Rolfer and you as a structural integration fascial Rolfer? If that's
Rolfer follows what the Rolfing Institute does. That's Ida Rolf. They have a 10 series that they learn. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy. That is some deep stuff, right? Structural integrationists is people who said, well, you know what? I know Rolfing, but I'm going to try to do my own little spin on it. And they're called structural integrationists. So Rolfing is very systematic, but even then, I know Rolfers who, go around the body because it's never one way. There's always a way around it. But structural integrationists are Rolfers who just don't want to rock and roll with the old ways, but they have their foot in the old ways and the new ways. But all of them are badasses.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Thank you, Marilyn. All right. So Shelly from YouTube wants to ask if Tim recommended a structural integrationist Rolfer PhD in Iowa. I hope I'm saying this correctly. So how would you recommend her finding that information? Because do you know anyone in Iowa?
Usually what I'll do is if people leave their name and number, I will personally call that area. I will look around and I will interview the Rolfers and the structural integrationists, and I find people for somebody. I do that myself. People reach out to Rooted and they're like, oh, I'm in California. Hey, I'll find somebody for you. You just have to be patient.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put up Rooted's contact information for you, Shelly. There you go. All right. Carry on, Tim.
Okay. So we went through brain fog. We went through the digestive system. I know this is complicated, but I'm trying to make it really simple. So the last part is the inflammation. Okay. So when you have stiff fascia, you have poor lymphatic drainage, right? You have stagnation of inflammatory chemicals. So what does that really mean? Well, people, if they don't know about lymphatic draining, you got to look at how I told you about how ground substance takes all these different chemicals and waste products and all that. And what they do is they cycle it down through into what's called lymphatic ducts. So the best way I can describe this, not to offend the lymphatic draining specialists out there, but if I'm driving behind a car, a trash truck, and it's rainy and it's windy, what's going to happen is that garbage is going to blow out. And then it's going to hit the street. And then it's going to get washed into the sewer system. So when it gets washed into the sewer system, that's kind of like our lymphatic system. And then it clogs up. and it takes one of those lymphatic ducts. You know how people get sick and they have problems with the swelling here? That's a prime example. The lymphatic system is fighting so hard that it's taking all this waste and putting it here, and it's blowing up, and it's trying to help itself. So imagine if this is a true story. Imagine if I'm a 65-year-old person, physical therapist who loves to run. And I'm running with plantar fasciitis and Morton's neuroma. And all of a sudden I get better, but I don't stop running. And I start feeling like discomfort. Well, what happens is the body's seizing up from the inside. And they love running so much that they won't even stop for 1 second. So then all that junk fills up, and it doesn't allow the lymphatic system to move, because here's the kicker. I said motion is lotion. Well, the fascia helps support skeletal structure and muscle movement. So if I'm sitting around not doing anything, I'm not cleansing. I'm backing up.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does to me. Yes. Absolutely.
So anyway, so when we have poor movement, we have what's called the inflammatory loop. And what happens is the body gets inflamed, the fascia guards more, the body gets inflamed, the fascia guards more. It just keeps going and going and growing until you have chronic inflammatory state, which means we're tired, we have pain, and we have poor healing. So that means what's happening is the body is not getting the signal it should to heal itself. And that's what this whole thing is about. If we get out of the body's way, right? I'm not a healer. I can't heal people. But I can get to a point where people can wake up, and I can wake up the signal in their body. Whether they do it, that's their issue, not mine. I'm not a healer. But what I do is I get the people to start to see they can heal themselves. But if they're in this matrix eating a piece of steak, thinking that fascia is like the steak that they're eating, they're wrong.
Right.
So that's where the fatigue comes in. Why? Because the nervous system is stressed. The hormonal system is stressed. The adrenal system is stressed. Then you throw coffee into it. You throw the jazzed up feeling, they have to go, people have to go, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. And your body goes, uncle. So what if the symptoms that we're experiencing are our body going, uncle? Instead of what's wrong, let's look at what's right with it. Let's listen to what the body's telling us. Instead of going, oh, you're a bad body. You're bad. You're terrible. I label you, I disable you. You're terrible. What if we looked at those signals differently? Those sovereign signals. The ones that go, wait a minute. We know how to do this, but a long time we forgot.
That is powerful. Like,
That's what I've been trying. That's what I've been teaching for 27 years. And I'm finally realizing it's time to get this out. And I call on everybody out there that's a body worker or a healer. Please understand, I've lived that for 27 years. I bled for my clients. And then I realized one day I woke up and went, you know what? I'm hurting myself. So people can call me a healer. I don't care. I don't call myself a healer. I am a sovereign signal finder. I'm the one that helps people find the signal. open them up so they can find the signal in them. And when they walk off my table, it's their issue, not mine.
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true.
But I still care about it.
Yes, you do. I've been that person sat in their car for 20 minutes because they couldn't drive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I think the longest I sat in the car when you were in Germantown was in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Because I couldn't.
Yeah, and you didn't know I was peeking out the curtain to make sure you were safe.
Yeah. But look at me now compared to them then.
Hey, man, you paid your dues. You went through the pain to get to the other side.
Yeah, I did.
If you avoid pain, it's going to control you.
This is true. This is true. So we do have a hand up. Is it okay to?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
I've got this.
All right. So Rebecca. Unmute.
Okay. So Tim, you had mentioned yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's several different types of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody is just getting started, what would you recommend?
Well, I used to be a yoga instructor, and I gave it up because I was, had people, and I'm like, you know what? I think this was just meant to be a bullet in my bandolier, in my belt. But what I say to people is, you get what you pay for. If you find a great yoga instructor in your area and you're in class and you're just not feeling that vibe, I'll tell you what, you make an appointment with a good or a really qualified yoga instructor, and you will learn the ins and outs that they can't show you because they're trying to teach 12 people in a class.
Mm.
Okay, but I'll tell you, if anybody's really interested, I have a dear friend of mine. Her name is Leela Fortier, and she has on Facebook, and her business is called Anata Yoga. And that woman is a badass when it comes to yoga.
That was Anata yoga?
Mm-hmm. I
How do
think
you spell
so.
that?
Sorry, Leela, I should know this. All right. Okay, it is ANANTA.
Okay.
And I've known her for such a long time. We were both personal trainers at the River Valley Health Club in New Hampshire. Shout out to all you guys. That's where we started to learn.
All right, fantastic. So I was told I'm starting yoga on Friday.
Yeah, just go slow and use your foam roller. Start to realize you don't step on that mat until you've earned the ability for your fascia to move. Otherwise, you're not investing in the investment that you're talking about. You don't just get out of your car and go to yoga class. You got to prep. You don't see a world-class NFL player go on the field without prepping. So what makes you think that you're so special? Not you, but people, that you're going to yoga class and you're like, I didn't even do my prep work. So that's that old saying, failure to plan means planning to fail. Do your little bit, get your fascia out.
Okay, so what would be the getting prepped for yoga?
For your body to move in all planes of motion, for you to realize that you sat in the chair all day. So even though your hamstrings don't feel tight, they're tight because your leg is bent, right? So then you're trying to do a triangle pose and you're like, oh man, I just got to get that last bit. And then all of a sudden, pop, because you didn't prime the pump. And you took your back too far into a place that it didn't want to go. And you may have done it over and over again, and that's how chronic injuries happen. So love yourself enough to say, wait a minute, if I'm going to go at 6 o'clock to this class, and it's at Lifetime Fitness, right? and it's taught by a wonderful instructor, I'm going to make sure that I get the best out of it because I'm going to give myself self-love and make sure that I'm ready to do that. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense because I had tried yoga probably almost 9 years ago. And I did get a chronic injury.
That's right. Because it's all
I
about
didn't wanna
relative rotation.
think about it.
It's
Yeah.
all about relative rotation. So if I'm in a pose and I'm rotating, if I rotate my spine too much, I'm in trouble, right? The outside of the body is the business suit. It's the stitching, right? So if my stitching's limited, I'm going to move from the inside out, not the outside in. That's the way it's supposed to go.
Okay. Wow. I'm learning a lot. I need to be, in the peanut gallery more often, I think.
Well, that's why I want to
Allen.
do these shows. We've got 10 more coming up. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Well,
This is
I
fun.
am honored to be able to host some of those. So super
Oh, that'll be
excited.
great. Yeah, but we'll still miss you.
I hope so. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. So Marilyn, and then Albert has a question.
What are the 4 planes specifically you're talking about? I think I'm unclear.
Oh, it's 3.
It's 3.
The planes of motion, yes. So you have sagittal plane,
Okay.
which is north and south. You have frontal plane, which is east and west. And then you have transverse motion, which is all of them put together.
Okay, so you're talking about cuts. Okay, in a sense.
Yeah, like, like if you
Okay,
take the
I
body
got
and
you.
you cut it in half. But how often do we sit in one plane of motion? So if I'm somebody and I'm working with a personal trainer and I'm coming in, I'm going, yay, me, I'm doing this, right? And I'm sitting in a chair and all of a sudden that personal trainer has me go and do a side lunge and I'm like, ow. That's because I didn't give myself the opportunity to get over there. And then the industry's saying, oh, well, you might have a weak glute medius. No. How about we start with the fascia? And we're not talking about the superficial fascia. We're not talking about a Graston tool. We're not talking about a gua sha. We're not talking about the scraping. We're talking about deep tissue enlivenment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That deep fascia too. when you
It sucks,
when
but
you
we
when
got to
you
do it.
get it to move. Oh my God. Okay. So Albert, please join
Are
us.
they,
There you go.
are they, Tim?
Hey,
Tim, yeah, you mentioned Tai Chi a little earlier. Could you
yes.
expand on that a little bit and the difference or the difference between Tai Chi and yoga? And is one more beneficial than the other, or should one do both of them, integrate both of them into your daily routines?
Well, I love both of them, but I've really been able over the years to understand that when you look at Tai Chi is about moving the body very slowly. It's about making sure that you catch every piece of the pie. So if we look at the room that you're in right now, and you look directly in front, that's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? And you go all around the clock. How often does yoga hit all those spots? Right? How often does
Yeah.
yoga hit the rotation? But remember, you're on a yoga mat. So you're on a mat this big down here, and you're going above out here too much. So I love yoga, trust me, but it's not all of it. And I have yoga instructors that I talk to all the time, and they're like, but yoga's rotational. It is, but it isn't. Because you've got to stay on that damn mat. And by staying on the mat, you're locked. Do you see?
You're restricted.
Exactly. And if you're restricted in fascia and then you get on the mat and you do yoga and all of a sudden you're like, well, why is my back hurt? It's because you need to move. You need to start doing it. And that's why Tai Chi is so important, because Tai Chi came from martial arts. I don't know if people know this, but a dear friend of mine, Tom LeBrun, he's a very, very amazing martial artist. And he said to me one day, he said, Tai Chi came from martial arts. So when the warlords saw these monks and they're all whipping around and all this stuff, and they said, whoa, that's a threat. Stop. They said, okay, we're going to dumb it down so much that we're going to start to learn all these different angles. And what happens if I get all those parts of the clock and then I speed them up? I become very dangerous. And one day those monks took over the warlords, right? Because they worked on the neurokinetic power. So that's why, to me, Tai Chi is very important, especially people they're getting older. You know, I do it every day because I teach people. I'm always waxing on, waxing off, waving the waters, brushing the fence, all that stuff. But it's for a reason. It's for self-defense of aging.
A nice way to put it.
Yeah,
Self-defense of aging.
exactly. Not aggressiveness. But that's a great question.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for the explanation.
Mhm.
Thank you, Albert. All right, Tim, we're
Very
at top of the hour, and I don't know if you were completely finished or not. So if you want to carry on, please do.
No, I just wanted to finish with one thing.
Okay.
If we treat fascia like our internal internet, we keep the network open. Think about that for a second. If we treat it like our internal internet, we keep the network open.
That is
And in
a,
my years of doing this for 27 years, to all those 25% that the 75% tried to help, why was I so successful? It's because I looked at the fascia not as a chicken skin, not as something that's not alive. It's alive. And if you do a deep dive into research now on fascia, oh my God, you're going to find out stuff that you will not believe, because that is us. And the moment we tune back into us is the moment we tune back into our sovereign signal.
wow. That is a statement of all statements. My goodness. Thank you for that, Tim.
Oh, that was fun. Thank you.
So we have a couple comments from YouTube.
Oh, cool. Bring them on.
Didn't have the slides up. So Dave says good show, and Bruce says thank you, Ruth Ellen, for a great show. William is like Superman.
I'm blessed, but thank you.
And then Shelly B says this has been so amazing to learn about. Thank you. And Hunter says practice with question marks. I'm not sure. Maybe I think that's back with the yoga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing
No problem. It's fun.
And we look forward to your next topic, which I think you have all mapped out. And so do you want to tell us what your next topic might be?
I believe it's on whiplash, neck issues, and shoulder issues. We're actually going to be doing it from my office, so it's going to be live. I'm going to have skeletons. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm going to miss that one. Okay, that's going to be great. Rebecca's excited and doing a little dance in her little square. That's awesome.
Oh, you'll come back for the pelvic floor.
Okay, I am very passionate about that. People think it's just Kegels, and it is so not that.
No, hopefully from this
So not that.
session, they understand it's the fascia that acts on the pubic synthesis, not the muscles.
Yes, remember that, ladies and gentlemen, because it affects men too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to miss that show. So,
Yeah. Especially men. They're going to learn a lot.
yes, yes, they will. So if I could get my co-host to come up and join us here, which feels weird to say when Rebecca Dukes is here. I am so, oh, I got to change it. I am so grateful that you can do this and that you want to continue to do that. So we'll talk about it, what your schedule is, and we'll let everybody know. Thank you, everyone out there on the different platforms. And I forgot to say, welcome to our newest channel, Odyssey. Did I say that right, AJ? It's Odyssey. Thank you for joining us. We are so glad that you are here with us. And for everyone out there on, YouTube, X, Rumble, Facebook, and all of the multiple platforms that I can't remember, just like Rebecca can't remember. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So I want to thank Rebecca Dukes because she's my first one up there. For Rebecca, you created this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Started with Ask Doc Live. And I've been with you doing this since July of 2020. And it's an incredible journey. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. And then we have, and of course, Rebecca is the producer of the show and our host most of the time, hostess. And then we have Albert, who is in South Africa and is a true gentleman and also the bouncer and lets people in here. And and he helps change, he changes the phone number so that your phone numbers aren't listed completely so nobody can see them, and different things that I can't even express all the things that he does. Also, he is our nighttime DWD phone team member. So if it's the middle of the night when we're sleeping, it's daytime for Albert. So he answers those calls. And then we have Sherry, who is the assistant production person. Oh, God, yeah, she's the assistant to the production manager, which is me. And then she does help set up the stream and sends it out to the different platforms after I send it to her. And she also sets up Rumble and a few other things that all the different platforms that we live stream to. So she does that. And not only that, she is a gem. She is a beautiful person, and I love her very much. And then we have Rod, who's out there, Mr. Motivator, and who is also helping with letting people in and stuff when Albert is here and when he is not here, which a few times we've missed you terribly, those couple times, Albert. And then he also is out on the different platforms and bringing in questions. So thank you very much, Rod. And then we have Phyllis. I love these people, I'll tell you what. But she is she's also helping out on the different platforms, doing the disclaimer, and also help get Doc on the radio. And there's a dear friend to me as well. And thank you for everything. And then we have Marilyn, who is Miss Speedy Fingers and is typing almost every single word pretty much that everybody says. So I don't know how you do it, but I'm impressed and I'm grateful for you as well. You're awesome. And then we have AJ, who's our digital marketing director, who has pushed us to get onto multiple platforms and finding new ones like Odyssey. So thank you for all that you do. And his list is 5 miles long. So we won't even go there. And I'm Ruth Ellen Sanchez, and it was my honor and privilege to be here with Tim Marsh, who's a dear friend of mine, and also the guy who puts his elbow in me and makes me cry sometimes. Turn into a truck driver. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. And again, this show is sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. And we do have a call team. It is at 855-949-3377. And if you have any questions and you would like more information, so you would questions, you would go to questions@dailywithdoc.com. And if you want information, you can go to info@dailywithdoc.com. And this program was for educational purposes only. It was not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any diseases. And we are empowered individuals and we can make choices for ourselves. So, learn, people, learn good things, and always, always above most everything, be kind. You do not.
Amen to that.
Yeah, you don't know what somebody's going through. They could be all smiling and happy. Inside, they're just crying and broken. And when they're alone, they're crying in the shower, or God only knows. So just be kind. Thank you for joining us today. And know that we love and appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, and who do we have tomorrow, Rebecca?
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, Ruth Ellen, for having a great show with Tim. And tomorrow we have Joanna Capella back with us, and we're going to be digging deeper into the toxins in the air we breathe.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.